Hello, good afternoon. This is Sean Martinez from XLIQ 360, and I wanted to give a just a quick rundown. I'm gonna try to keep this under 5 minutes. I'm notorious for talking too much, but I wanted to give a quick prelude to, you could call them products, like a couple of products that I will be launching and leveraging with my clients. And these are tools that I have built and sourced from my experience uh, in the channel, my experience as a product marketing manager, servicing B2B tech clients and their channel, their network of channel partners. So, yeah, I just wanted to go over these pretty briefly. Um, I have an item to the left and to the right, and really it should be in the reverse. We should start. We should start here. Okay, so essentially what this is these are tools that will help you build out a messaging and positioning framework. What is a messaging and positioning framework? A messaging and positioning framework is essentially um, a document that you can leverage to help you build out all of your marketing and your sales materials based off of whatever product or solution you want to take to market. So, this messaging and positioning framework helps you do that systematically and strategically and at a programmatic level. Um, so, yeah, I'll just get into it. So, prior to building a messaging and positioning framework, it's important to know who it is that you are messaging and marketing to. To help yourself get clear on that, of course, you have to, you know, validate your offer in the market. You have to identify who your target market is. Once you've identified who that is, you want to leverage a, a buyer persona template. So this template's already pre-filled. It has um, a mock uh, persona in it, a Jane Doe. She's a CFO, a Chief Financial Officer. Essentially, you just want to collect this information, get a bio on her, figure out what her role in the buying process is, what are her demographics, how old is she, what's her gender, where is she located, what company does she work at, what size are they, et cetera, what's her personality like, what are her responsibilities, her goals, what motivates her to, actually um, buy a solution or invest in one. Who is she validated by? What is she validated by? What helps her validate, you know, that she wants to pursue that solution? What are the reasons she won't buy a solution? What will help you close the deal? How does she like to communicate and consume content? What features are most valued, um, are most valuable to her in a solution? And of course, my son comes in, but I'm going to keep going. And what is the pricing point for the a solution that she's willing to pay for? So, and then also research links. Where'd you source this information? Very important to be able to cite your sources and go back to the roots. Okay, so once you have all that information, you're going to leverage that to then start building out your messaging and positioning framework. So I'm going to make this, maximize this. So for the messaging and positioning framework, you can use this per campaign. There are variations of a messaging and positioning framework. You can have an all up master messaging and positioning framework template. This is not what that is. This one is for one particular campaign. And I say all this to say that I will also be hosting a webinar where I will walk through much more thoroughly how to leverage these tools, what's the purpose for these tools, how to best utilize them, all the different types of messaging and positioning frameworks that you can build. And I will do a live example as well on these, and I will be sharing these resources and templates after that webinar. Okay, so uh, yeah, so with your messaging and positioning framework, you want to document an overview of your company. Now, mind you, you're going to be leveraging this document. You're going to share it with your marketing team, your sales team. You can even share it with your product team, your customer success team. etc. But you start with an overview of your company. So within this template, I have descriptions, definitions, examples, structuring, suggested word counts, and the whole shebang for you. Um, add your company landing page. Just going to take that initial intel over yourself, center yourself and who you are, and what you and your company, your mission stand for. And then we get into your target market. So that's where the persona information is going to start filtering in. So who is your target market? Who are these people? What type of companies are these? Where are they located? What kind of organizations are they? In my case, what uh, in addition to where's their valuation, what series of funding are they in, if they are capital backed or venture backed um, companies. My target primarily right now is the managed service provider, so I will come in and I will fill that target market information accordingly, just at that all encompassing level. And then we get into your personas. So this is where you take that persona template and you apply it to this messaging and positioning framework template. And I recommend that you identify your decision makers as well as your influencers and the actual users and users of your solution. And I also recommend you go a step further. And if you're in B2B, that you identify your end customers too. Who are the customers that are going to be using your solution? That's very important as well. So after that, we can skip through all that. Then we get into your use cases. So I think it's very critical to the success of a campaign to segment your messaging and positioning in by use case, and to build your content and your assets, your campaign and sales assets per use case, because you can have a pretty, I think it's fine to have a pretty healthy and broad but deep target market and persona base, but I think it's very important to speak to each of those very specifically. So that's the whole point of a messaging and positioning framework is, you're essentially architecting your success by getting to the root of what each of these people's challenges are and what they would need your solution for. So, define your use cases. So within this template, I have space for you to enter up to 5. If I was to do an exercise with you, depending on the scope and the scale, on average, I'd probably work with you on about 1 or 2 use cases so we could stay really focused and aligned. And then we go into the solution description and positioning statement. So figure out what is it that you're offering. Oftentimes you'll find that, you may have a validated offer in the market, but the solution in itself still needs to be packaged. So a lot of that actually ends up getting worked out during this exercise or this workshop. So you identify your solution and your offering name. And as you can see, I have a few examples here for my different solutions. And then a description of the solution, said solution. And then you get into your positioning statement. So you can start out the gate with your positioning statement on this template. So this one that I'm showing this one because it's actually like a shorter template compared to my longer one, which is more evolved and more, it's arranged more properly than this one. So disregard the fact that the positioning statement is this high up. Usually will be below after we've already done our challenge, sorted out our customers' challenges and the outcomes that we generate from them and all that good stuff and capabilities and all that stuff. But I have, a structure. I have this set up to where you can just come in and plug in. It's like a plug and play. You come in and you can plug your information in, and more on the capabilities of this with an AI automation tool to come. You'll hear more about that during the webinar as well. But essentially, yes, a positioning statement, and then, like I said, that's a little higher up. So below the use cases and all that stuff, we have a section for your brand tone. You can come in and build in how do you want to convey yourself to the market? What's your mission? What does that sound and look like? In this template, this is just primarily for campaigns, so the brand section is not built out very thoroughly, but there is another version of this template that dives a lot deeper into like the brand, your values, and so on and so forth. And then we have a section for external marketing context. So uh, this is where you have your solution offering name, the description, solution detail pages, and then you get into your customer challenges and outcomes. Now, for me, I have uh, the persona groups here. So I have this broken out by persona groups. Each persona should get their own designated set of challenges and outcomes. I think that's pretty critical as well. The outcomes should parallel the challenges. So, for example, uh, here I have missed market opportunity and cost of inaction as a challenge with some more descriptor there, and then the parallel outcome is pipeline unlocked and opportunity captured with some description there. So uh, yeah, like I said, you separate it by persona groups and you move forward. I'll scroll down. So then we get into the offering capabilities and differentiators. This is where you discuss the primary features, which are um, the functions of your solution, competencies of your solution, and you know the robustness, and uh, this is where you detail like how robust your capabilities are and so on and so forth. So what is your solution capable of doing? What can it do? What can it actually do? So you have that section, and then you have your differentiators, which is what makes your solution different and stand out in the market. What do you have that nobody else has? What do you bring to your customers that nobody else does? And then you have an evidence section, your qualitative evidence, and your quantitative evidence. So, numbers as well as just like overall results of your solution. This can be like product demonstrations, research, and so on and so forth. So we'll scroll past all of this. As you can see, I use my own templates. And then your value proposition. So your value proposition is your external message to the market versus a positioning statement, which is more internal, is more for internal review. So what is the strategic benefit statement that connects your solutions outcomes to executives' goals and the impact that they want to have on their business with your solution? So I have a template here, both a long and a short version of this. And then we get into, down here I have campaign headline, but that further down we'll explore where that should rightfully be positioned. Calls to action, what do you want your ideal customer to do? Um, with whatever information that you give them. What is their call to action at the end of an engagement for a campaign or whatever it is, taglines, etc. And then your solution pillars, what are the strategic themes or core business priorities that anchor your messaging and align your capabilities to an audience? What three pillars can you always anchor to across your content? So let's see, better together story. That's if you're doing like partner branded messaging and positioning. And then objection handling. What would stop your, so basically you tackle head on like what may your customer object to? Is it pricing? Are they looking at other solutions? Are they concerned about adoption cost? Do they feel like they don't need the solution? They have a lack of in-house expertise, and so on and so forth. Here's where you workshop how you're going to respond to those objections. And you work with your sales team and you review your sales calls and you do everything that you need to do to make sure that you are best equipped to respond to those objections before they happen. And then in this section, so I just recently added this: tools, features, business outcomes, what you do and don't offer. Um, so I think this section, so as I dive more into like the MSP landscape, and even prior to like focusing really heavily on MSPs, um, I realized that it's as important to speak to what you don't do as it is to speak to what you do. Because I mean, the reality is that if a customer can get everything that they need to solve their solution from you, they will get it from you regardless of if they paid for it or you agreed to it during the initial contract or not. So it's very important on the front end before you sign anything to distinguish what it is that you don't do and you do. What do your tools and features do and services do, and what don't they do? And a lot of that, what they do is higher up in your capabilities and your offering description and so on. But a lot of it is still needs to be clarified further when it comes down to actually building out your proposal and your contract. So this is a good section to leverage for when you're actually putting together your proposal and your SOW, making sure that you state in there, here's what you're not getting. And then that may entice them to inquire further. Oh, we're not getting that? Okay, well, how can we go about getting that? What's that look like? Okay, and then moving further down into the campaign asset copy. This is a workspace for you to actually like take all that messaging and the positioning and all the framing and actually put it into action um, ahead of actually transferring it into some type of template in my mind uh, that you would fill to then finalize and put that content out in the market. So here's where you would add your CTAs for your campaign. If you're building out a sales deck, bring in some of that messaging, draft up some of that slide content, copy. If it's a two-seller pitch deck, the same. So I won't go through all of these, but I will name some of these assets. So it can be a landing page that you can take that content and pull it down into a quick reference card, which would be like a messaging and positioning quick reference card. This would be like ahead of a battle card. This is just you're a seller quickly referencing, okay, in a conversation, during that initial conversation, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's what makes us different, here are the capabilities, etc. Battle cards, infographics, brochures, you just use this section to really workshop and get your wheels turning, white papers and so on. So essentially that is my version of a quick run through of these tools and materials. And I know this is like a 20-minute long video. However, you're talking about what kind of money are you trying to make, really? Who are you trying to target? Those who know this is quick. So yes, if you have any questions ahead of what's to come, feel free to reach out. Like I said, I will be sharing these resources, the much more polished versions with whoever wants them, who will be attending my webinars. During that webinar, I will also demonstrate how to take this template, feed it into an automation tool of your choice, and then have it auto-populated based off of the background materials that you have made available within that automation tool. And these tools like Claude and everything, they're so intricate right now that you can automatically, like, you can work in Claude Cowork workspace, and you can have it connected directly to your desktop. So that's a really nice feature. And I will already go ahead and say that this is, if you're going to be using the AI element for this, to ensure that you have the mindset that to do that with the AI tool will be a V1. That is a best use for a V1, not for final. You still want to workshop that messaging. You want to review it and make sure it's right and it's good and it aligns with your what your target market needs. So that's to come. Stay tuned, and I'll talk to you later.